Welcome to this most excellent and extremely long video guide on how to convert this Steam Deck to a clear purple shell, full strip and rebuild.
So I like these because they allow me to separate all the screws, although we have found that the screws do come quite well separated, and a lot of them are the same size, which is brilliant. And when we're used to dealing with Apple products, so our Spark Angels mainly repair iPhones, iPads, Macs, etc. All the screws are different width, sizes, lengths, and it's a super headache. So actually, this is quite nice experience. And all the screws are relatively the same, and it is actually designed to be kind of user repair, which is nice. I mean, the downside is, and we're still campaigning to get a selection, to get parts for these, is that Valve are pretty closed door as far as part supply is concerned, and we've had no luck so far. But yeah, okay, they supply iFixit as their part supplier, but again, the downside is that they really don't supply them with very many parts at all. They've got a half selection of parts on iFixit. Like for instance, the screens, they're always out of stock of the 512 matte finish screens, which is really frustrating for our customers. And at the moment, and they have been for a long time, out of stock on the adhesive strips as well, which really doesn't help people who want to do that. It's fine for us, we can utilize and cut our own tape, but and we will actually be producing tape on our website, so you can buy it very soon. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's a bit half-assed as far as their parts supply is concerned, and they're pretty locked down. I've tried, and we will continue to try to get parts supplies so that we can offer you guys the best, absolutely, phenomenally best genuine parts and after-sale service, which at the end of the day is what they sing as their kind of customer service. Unlike Apple devices, they're supporting user upgrade and user repairable, but they're not doing it fully because they're not supplying the parts very well. Anyway, so yeah, this Jsaux kit is incredible. Look at this, absolutely brilliant. Vacuum formed tray position diagram. You can lay out everything as you go. It's just beautiful. I mean, they really have done they really have done a great job. And you've got additions of they've upgraded it as well. So it's really nice. I'm really impressed. We've got tape. In fact, they give you quite a few sets of screen tape, which is nice, just in case. We've got springs, we've got screws, we've even got a suction cup for the screen. Wonderful, let's get stuck into it. Now, we've helped out quite a few customers that have managed to round off screws. They are quite easily offable, so you've got to be quite careful. Use a nice screwdriver to do that as you go. That's no problem. So let's put the main plate screws in here. And what you have four long screws. So you've got in the four corners, and then you've got four short screws that go into sort of kind of the board area. They're all crosshead Phillips, or however you want to call them. If you've got any questions, then shoot us on the video, or even contact us via our website, SteamDeckRepairs.com. That's the easiest route to contact us. Sometimes comments on YouTube don't always get put through to standard email addresses. They go to Gmail and the like, which isn't always useful. The long screws. So, I mean, this is the screwdriver that Jsaux of Jsaux supplied us, and even then, the screws kind of want to round off a bit. And if that starts to happen, if you start to skip a few of the heads, it's just put a little bit more pressure downward and go a little bit slower. Yeah, see, that's kind of refusing to do it as well. If anything, that's not ideal. Let's see, it might well be that the head of the screwdriver has already seen its max use, which I'd like to think is not the case. Another long screw. See, that one's not going to come undone. So immediately we need a slightly larger Phillips screwdriver to do that. There we go, brilliant. That brought it out, and you see the difference between that. See the difference between that and that. Huge difference. And that did a nice job. we'll see. I might use that a little bit more often inside. So to open the casing, it looks quite daunting. I like to try and do it so there are no marks at all. Actually, also something that you need to check out is if there's an SD card in there, the case won't come apart. So you always want to pop that SD card out. It's just a case. I use what they call a spudger in the trade, and it's a plastic non-marking tool, and you just kind of it'll go in there. And you're just looking for some clips, give it a bit of a pry, and they're really easy, quite easy clips to start coming done, and they click nicely. And it's just a case of giving it a wiggle as you go all the way along. And once you've got a bit of a headway in there, running along the bottom, you can actually do it. Here's my little sign there. I need to stick it down. Shameless plug, SteamDeckRepairs.com, and off it comes. So yeah, once you've got the line down there, away it comes. So that's the inside of said Steam Deck. Very nice. I do. It's a very nice design. This is one of the earlier runs. We got a screw under there, which we'll tackle in a minute. I think some of the later ones have actually removed that, or the cover actually comes away before you access that one. So we're going to put that to one side. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to tackle is we're going to take this plate off to access the battery connector, and then we're going to pull the battery connector. I mean, you've got a pull tab there, which could disconnect the battery. Some of them, there we go. So the first thing you want to do when you're inside is disconnect the battery. Now, I've had ones where this pull tab is almost non-existent, so you have to remove this bracket to actually get to the battery connector, and you have to do it by sort of nudging this plastic connector out. But as we just saw there, they seem to have lengthened this on some of them, and that's nice. You can disconnect it straight away, and yeah, job done. So disconnect it. Essentially, it powers down, so you're not going to be at risk of doing any sort of shorting damage. Now, this mat allows me to kind of put up all of the screws, and with each plate, so that allows me to remember which ones they go back in. I'm also a fan of, I don't want to knock the camera again. I'm also a fan of taking a picture before and during, taking lots of pictures during, not just for social media marketing, but also because when I go, where does that go? I can have a look at the pictures and go back. So I recommend doing that as well. So there's 3 screws there. This screw and this screw are the 4 in the middle of the shell, the short screws. So they're already out. So you do that one there, and then there's one under this silver foil. Again, they do come with some tweezers, which is quite nice. Not these ones. Just gonna peel that back. Not out completely, and it's quite a large headed fillet screw in there that comes right out. I'm going to put them all in there with this shell. This kind of it's mainly I guess it's a static and a heat dissipation plate. So you got the thermals all under there, and you've got these thermal pads, and they're sticky pads that touch the top of chips, as you can see, and actually take the heat out of that, transfer it, and that's why there's no black sticker in any. They transfer it straight to this metal plate. This metal plate acts like a radiator and radiates the heat out. So we're going to put that there with the screws, keep them all with each other. So there we go, there's the battery connector, and we pulled that out. If you don't have a pull tab and that's in there, you can get either your fingernail or the corner of a tool, a plastic tool, and gently push it out and wiggle it bit by bit like that, and out it comes. But it's quite restricted on how far it will go back, and that's why these tabs are quite nice, and it pulls it out like that. But you isolate the machine from the battery. A lot of people worry about these lithium polymer batteries, and in all of our experience and many years of repairing devices with them on, you have to respect them, but they're not the super explosive devices that people make out them to be. You've got to be pretty you've got to do quite a bit of damage for it to do anything daft. So you're going to take the heatsink screws out here. So you've got the 2 large head Phillips, black Phillips screws that go in there. Obviously that one comes out with the shell. We take that one out, and this silver one actually stays in place. It can't come out. It's got a little heat plate in there. So that's and there's thermal paste under here that goes right on top of the processor, and then there's 2 small crossheads at the bottom of the fan. one there. And again, we're going to keep that in that little tray there. And another there. I'm well known for my videos where I don't actually do a great deal of cut sequences, so you get all the information. I'd rather talk too much than not enough, and you end up damaging something in the process. So the last thing to think about is this tiny connector here. Now, you can use your fingernails if you're gentle. I always say that if you have to pull something or push something really hard and force it, then there's something not right. You've got to rethink what you're doing and start again. But we're just going to give it a little bit of wiggle by the wires, and it comes out nice and gently like that. This then comes away. The fan and the heatsink lift straight out, which is beautiful. And then you've got thermal paste on the processor. Now, if we don't touch that too much, then we can put that straight back on and it will do the job. Or we can put a little bit of thermal paste back on there as we go back. But if we don't smudge it too much, then I will put it back because this Steam Deck really isn't very old and that paste is still quite fresh. Some will say, well, you might as well place it while we're at it. Indeed. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So next thing, we'll take the SSD. Now this is the SSD right there, large crosshead screw. We'll replace this as we build it back up. And as that comes out, you see the SSD picks up. We'll put that in that little slot there. And the SSD immediately, just give it a wiggle, out it comes. We'll put that there. That's got a thermal shield that will transfer over as well, that silver shield. And there you see the main board. We've got access to the main board now. And screw-wise, there's a few screws. We'll take out those in a second, and then we'll get down to the cables here. So the two crossheads screws up the top here. We're going to lay the main board down out of the way slightly, so we'll put the main board screws over there. Oh, there we go. The same size, so that always helps. Then underneath here, there's one more screw, and there's some funny antenna cables, and we've got the LCD cable as well. So let's go for the LCD cable. That's that there, the ribbon cable. Now these clasp, they're basically this black piece of plastic here is a clasp. It pops up and allows the cable to withdraw. When in the opposite, you put the cable in and the clasp goes down and clamps all the connections together, because there's tons of connections into there, and holds it in place. So again, with your fingernail or a flat non-marking object, you really want to be careful with these, because we can repair them if they break, but it's not very pretty. So there's no need. So you just need to go in a tiny little wiggle and up it pops, just will that go dink. And then again, I love the design of these, because what they've done, unlike a lot of electronic manufacturers, is you've got the ribbon cable that goes in, and they've actually got a flap like that as a pull flap. They really have thought about this, which is nice. A little bit like that, but actually part of the cable. So you can get your finger there and pull it out like that, instead of having to get under and pull the main cable out. See, so that's the main cable, and that's like a return that comes back on itself that's bonded in. And how do you put it? Really nice, really nice. Yeah, so there's the kind of the clasp that, if you damage it, don't panic, get in touch with us, SteamDeckRepairs.com. But yeah, so it's another one of these, a little bit like, now this cable, if I refresh my memory, this cable is the speakers, two speakers here, both cables run and then go into the main board truss there. Again, it's so small and there's no real returns to be able to ping under it. You get your finger and you just give it hold the board in place, just give it a wiggle and out comes. They'll only go in one way as well. And underneath here are two antennas for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, I'm assuming. So this heat shield here that the SSD sits on it's a sticker, like a heat shield sticker, but it's also on a thick piece of clear plastic, and then that's adhered to the board. So it's quite robust. We're going to lift up the corner. We're not taking off the whole thing, but it's very well stuck down. So I'll flip it up to show you. We want to peel it off down there. It's quite stiff, I can tell you that, and it's bonded to this this circuit board plate here. We don't want to take it all the way off. Just pull it back, and under there you've got M&A. The first time I've seen M&A, it normally has A, B, or 1 and 2. These are circular antenna cables, and you can damage them, put them back on very easily. So we'll come back to that. You want to get something pointy underneath the back. You imagine there's a circular connection there under this back part, with your fingernail or a tool, again, plastic tool ideally. We're just going to pop it off like that. And then the same with that one. Just pop straight off. There we go, and you can see there the circular connections that they go on. They're very easy to damage when you go on, so we'll cover that. And then we're just gonna pop that back on there to protect them. All in all, in fact, no, there is no screw for the main board on there. I'm mistaken, it's just those 2 antenna cables. The board will now come out. I always touch like the large sections, like the grounding sections of the board, just to make sure there's no static going on. I should have said that when I popped the casing open. I kind of touched the earth sections, the main chassis of it, just to neutralise any static. A lot of people out there will say anti-static wristbands, etc. Yes, probably. Okay, so with the main board off, and we then have to free up some of the cables. We've got a audio board cable that goes along here. It goes into the bottom side of the board, can get quite awkward when you put it back together. And you've got the daughter board cable here, and here runs all the way along here. Same sort of thing. These clasp type connectors here. You've got to be very careful and just literally flick up and let the spring do the work like that. Same one there. It's quite confusing because that's white with a black housing, and that's black clasp with a white housing. So you just got to be careful that you get the right part and you don't try and pry the actual main body of the connector, because again, we can repair them, but it's a very difficult task indeed. And then yeah, you've got these little pull tabs, but essentially you just want to flick them out of those connections like that. That will allow you to, I say, half lift the board. Normally they come up a little bit more. This one's stuck down, right? Okay, so you can see there, the daughter board cable is stuck down there. So the best way of doing it is just gently, not pulling it out of the board there, but getting it underneath there and just very, very gently. Oh, this one's stuck super well. Forget that. Some of the early models, this daughter board cable underneath there isn't stuck down very firmly, so you can just pry it up. That just gives you a little bit of ability to rotate that up. This one's not going to let me do it. So we're going to lift the Steam Deck up. If you can see inside there, we've got these clasp type connectors. We'll ping that one. Again, get it behind the clasp. The clasp is the cable side of the connector, if that helps. Get underneath it, tiny little flick. And it will pop up, maybe. The fingernail then. There we go. That comes straight out. Gets tricky when you're going to put those back in, by the way, but this cable will be lifted a bit, so it'll give us a bit of a chance. And there you go, that exposes that little one. Same thing there. Excuse me. And that wiggles out. There is the main board. You've got everything on there. You've got the power connection. You've got the power button there. And the SD card slot underneath there as well. Main chipset and everything. So we put that to one side. So, next thing you can see, you've got the daughter board cable goes on there. Audio FPC cable up to there. That's the LCD cable. 2 daughter boards that they call it. Thumbsticks. And then all the button, everything, and then the 2 speakers under here, and you've got the main battery there. So we'll take the audio board out there. It's got the up and down button, up and down volume buttons, the main connector in, the headphone jack as well. So we're gonna lift that up. Same sort of clasp, although it's a vertical clasp that goes down. The clasp lifts up, and you can get under there, pull one side up, and pull the other side up. The reason I like using my fingernails to do that is because you've got a feel of how hard you're pushing. It flicks up probably about 1 millimeter, and then that cable lifts out straight away. Same one with that, the audio, you get in there. Try and get in the center, pings up like that, and you can pull that. It will pull out with the board actually. 2 screws for the audio board. One there. And one there. Let's remove this cable. So again, these are fairly robust, but you can damage them as well. You just gently peel it, and they're stuck down with tape like so. And it's actually got a guideline on the battery of where it goes, and the guideline in there as well, which is really super smart. Pull that. It's got a little bit of adhesive attaching it to the frame there. Oh, there you go. Actually, probably could have left it in the audio board, but it does solid tape there. Put that to one side, and the audio board wants to come out of its own means, so you could probably left that cable attached to it, and it draws it out with it. Quite fiddly getting under there and pulling it out. There we go. Out comes the audio board. So we're going to loosen up this daughter board cable just to clear it. Give it a wiggle. There we go. Again, it's quite, you wiggle it gently, and then you won't do any damage. Yeah, let's draw it off the battery. I've done a fair few of these and not damaged this cable. Again, it's, when you're dealing with iPhones, they're about 1/4 of the thickness of these. You know, less than a human hair, and you can tear them really easily. These are nice and robust. This one, this daughter board on the right hand side, we're going to pop this clip, and then this will lift right up out of the way. So we'll put that. Again, we're doing more and more parts on our website, AppleiPodParts.com, or the Spark Angels. Get in touch if you need any parts. We've got a YouTube store. You've got an eBay store as well for main parts. Where do we get our parts from? We buy brand new devices and we break them for parts. Simple as, because we can't get a part supply from Valve yet. I'm hoping that will change, but yes, say sadly, it is, because it keeps the price of the parts up. But if you can't get them anywhere else, then there we go. So let's move on to the rest of the device. We leave the battery in there, and we're going to start with the thumbsticks. So to remove the thumbstick, we will we'll flip up these catches. So we'll flip this catch up. Again, you can use that pull tab to draw it out, and that cable pings out like that. We're going to leave that attached to the daughter board. It doesn't need to go anywhere. And then there's 3 screws for the thumbstick. Pretty simple, eh? I do like that. So 1. Now you can get replacement thumbsticks and Hall effect thumbsticks as well, like digital and analogs. They're supposed to be a lot better, a bit of an upgrade, which is nice. Thumbstick comes right the way out. Smart, very smart. Pop that in there. Might as well do spoiled for choice. Let's do the trigger and bumper buttons. So the trigger is 2 screws there. In fact, if I remember rightly, there's another screw in there. You actually have to dismantle the thumbstick buttons. You do that, and I'll show you when it's off, because it'll be easier. It actually clips into this base plate, but you've got to take it off the base plate with the spring, and that's probably why they supply springs with the kit, because they're easy to lose. We actually need to take the thumb button off. There you go. So you get in there, and I'll show you in more detail and a close up in a second. There goes the spring. We'll move that out. No, we'll put it there. There's the right hand button. We're gonna have to actually remove the back off this shell. It splits, and because there's a magnet in there that's like a detection that we carry over. I was going to show you, wasn't I? Yeah, so you see these 2 lugs there. Quite a simple design. You've got those 2 lugs, clip over it. So what you can do in disassembly and reassembly is do one at a time. So you can put one on, put the spring in place. You put one on. It's difficult to hold it in at the same time, and then you push that down in the other. And the same thing, you get underneath this one and you just give it a bit of a pry out, and it pings off. 3 screws, and that releases this joystick plate. Not joystick plate, the trigger plate. It's quite a lot of the work, this. It's quite daunting. I remember the first one I did. There you go, plateless straight off. We'll put that with there. That exposes got the trigger set up and the thumb board as well. So the daughter board there. Let's go ahead and remove the daughter board. So 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and we've got multiple cables for the buttons or the joist pad, the kind of touch pad itself, and the steam button. Again, you've got to remember which screws go where. You've got the large headed Phillips screw there, but you kind of know when you see it. Oh, we do. You've got the larger hole there for it to cover. That's one way of remembering it. Again, now these connections, similar sort of style. You can flick up gently the clasps. Again, don't worry if you break them, get in touch, and then just gently pull these out. 1, 2, or you can use these little I don't know, pull tabs, I guess. And this one, the last one here, which I believe is for the thumb pad, you have to lift that up. It literally goes in like that and comes out like that. It doesn't go in horizontally. You get into the wires gently, just lift it. Maybe that's in there firmly, isn't it? Yeah. There we go. It literally has 2 slots in there, and then they slot straight down onto those 2 tiny pins there. Now, I'm thinking all the clasps are off. You've got the bumper button up there. Kind of uses as a lever to press the button. This should lift off. We're going to be left with everything else underneath. I'm pretty sure that will lift straight out. There's a location post up there. So you lift it up, lift it out. There is the daughter board, and there's the back of the steam button actually. It comes with that little rubber gasket. Oh, gasket. Yeah, I guess it is. It's probably a bit of a seal. It's also a bit of a spacer as well. Daughter board. We'll pop that out of the way. We know the screws are there, so that's fine. In fact, we'll put the button there. The steam, the options button, menu lifts straight out, goes into that. You're left with the vibration board, and then the vibration thumb pad underneath. Quite tricky, looks worse than it is. And you've got the bumper up there. Let's take the bumper off. So, got 1 screw here. Put that to one side there. There's that corner screw as well. So there's 2 screws. Same size screw, which is nice. You've got those 2 screws, and out it comes. Replacing them is a bit tricky. On there, you have the D-pad buttons as well, and the top button, whereby pressure on those shorts those out essentially and activates those buttons. So you've got the bumper button that comes out there, then you've got the rubber, the actual actuating buttons. That's what those flexible bits give you the feel that they call clicky feel. So that goes on there, and then all these buttons come out separately, like so. There we go. We'll be replacing those. Trying to get them in the right order. And that includes that top options button, so the 3-line button. That's that out. Let's now take this back plate off. 4 screws. As I'm working to my left, as you can see, I'm kind of keeping my things in roughly the right, sort of left and right. Next one there. Now this is really quite complex and quite clever as well. We'll leave that ribbon cable on for now anyway. Lift this up, little locating pin there comes off, and that carries that off. I believe that is a sensing panel for the back of the pad. I'm assuming it's when you push it down, it connects. So when it's that button feel that you get. It must work on there. you see lots, there's a weave there of connection. Must be some sort of proximity. I don't really know, actually. And now you're left with this really archaic but also very clever design of this kind of vibration panel. You see it's set on springs. This whole thing, you can push it and it moves, and yeah, 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, lifts out, and there's those connections. Actually replacing the black pad is really tricky on these. It involves a bit of heat, a bit of patience. I might talk a lot, as I said earlier, but I'd rather tell you way more information than you actually need, rather than some of the guides out there that won't tell you half of what you need to know, and you'll end up slicing a cable or snapping something, causing you lots of heartache and money. So again, I'm A Jabberon. My whole channel is all about that, but I'd rather be way more information than not. These come out. You have this, the mag section comes out there, the magnesium frame, so it lifts up and goes that way. And there you have the whole piece and the button. At some point in this video, we're going to split this off. It opens up like a book, and then we are going to use heat on here and very gently lift the other part of this panel off to rehouse it on a coloured version. That's tricky. That is tricky. Again, we sell the parts on SteamDeckRepairs.com, or we can do this for you. This looks too complex, no problem. We can do it for you. In the meantime, I'm going to actually lift this screen cable off. Same sort of thing again. You can be very careful, but you very gently peel it off. And if you can, when you get to the main section of the cable, I'm just going to peel it off. Instead of pulling it all the way from one bit, you work your way along and ping it. Same sort of thing. So that's free to come out with the screen. The speakers will come out at some point soon. So we'll come to the right hand side, left hand side as you look at it, blah blah blah. Do the same sort of thing. So the thumbstick first. Get all a bit quicker and a bit more casual on that. Ping up that connector there, and yeah, use that little pull tab to pull that cable out. As before, we can leave that cable on the daughter board, that's fine. Undo another screw. So all the, like I say, if you want to do it yourself, that's fine. Follow this video, it's free. Hope you enjoy it. If you've got any questions, then get in touch with us at SteamDeckRepairs.com. We are in the UK, but we can ship internationally. We're going to be selling more and more of the parts listed on our site, also the repairs. We will do the repairs for you, screens, well, everything, you name it, buttons, main boards, batteries, yada yada, and we'll also sell the parts, and we're listing more and more as it goes. So we'll put the thumbstick there. Next thing we'll do we'll do the trigger. And again, all these silver screws are nice and the same size, which is pleasant. If you can see in there, we're going to get inside that lug where it comes down and sits over a little circular spindle. We're going to ping that off, and the button will come out, and just making sure that we keep hold of the spring. So get in there. There we go. So that's already half off. Put a thumb over the spring, give it a wiggle, and we're looking to then withdraw it that way to come off of the other lug so we don't do any damage. It's quite fiddly because it's tucked underneath there and there, and there's a spring as well. Then we'll go for the bumper button. 2 screws, 1 and a 2. It's interesting that actually actuates through the switch, the bumper button's there, and there's a magnet in here and in there that detects that, kind of like a Hall effect sensor for the trigger. Now that lift should, well, that will lift off anyway with that, and also the bumper will come out. No, it won't, because that's the plate underneath. Sorry, those 2 screws that we've remained, or that screw remaining, sorry, I should put that one back in. That screw there is the bumper. You don't need to take that out for the trigger, just the screw that was underneath the button, then we removed it. So, the daughter board. lift these little tags, these tangs. Again, be very gentle with them. Let the spring do the work. And I said, no matter what colour they are, you're going from where the cable enters is the clasp, like so. If in doubt, just use your fingernail and a bit of patience. This one's tricky. There we go. I just used my thumb, the other side, just to ping it up. That one there. We're leaving that one in place. That's fine. And then this one, the lift straight up. Like so. We unscrew the daughter board. Big screw, big headed screw there. Again, you kind of know that that's from that one, because you've got the large spigot here with the head that has to cover that, and then the small holes for the others and the grounding plane. If you put a small one, it wouldn't cover that. Unleash these small cables. 1, 2. You probably lift the board up and just let that one do its thing. Very tricky for fingers like mine. Come on. Yeah, this one's a slippery little sucker. There we go. Left hand door board out. Attached to that button. We'll take that off. Put that there. Put the door board over here. Now that button will lift straight out. 15 button. We'll put there. We can then take the bumper out. There was 2 screws, that one there and that one there, but we've already taken that out. Like so. The other screw was there. Then the D-pad comes out. Well, actually underneath that you have that rubber membrane with the buttons. Then the D-pad are going to go together. Then that leaves us this thumb pad. We'll take the sensor panel off. I guess it's a complex job. We do it for a living here at AppleiPodParts.com and Spark Angels, so it's at sparkangels.co.uk. But we do it day in, day out, and we thoroughly enjoy what we do. We repair all sorts on these so far. And we always lead our contact messages when people reach out for us a quote. We always lead with the fact that, especially up to now, you know, they've all got warranties. They're all under a year old. Well, they aren't now. They're approaching that age where they're out of warranty. But we're out of warranty repairers, so we always highlight the fact that it will break warranty, although Valve are a little bit, and they'll allow you to do it. If we did that to an iPhone, it immediately breaks the warranty. Yeah, we always lead with the fact that if you need a repair, best repair is a free repair, and one that keeps your warranty. So if it is under a year old and it is a warranty issue, then go back to Valve and Steam. We also, but then people still choose us because we're quick and we're easy, and people, yada yada. And of course, we're here for whoever. Yeah, so that's the pad out. Wicked little spring mechanism there. Pop that there. We're replacing that. We are left with the LCD screen, the magnesium panel with the battery attached to it, which we'll leave, and the speaker sets. Now we can't take the frame, we can't take this magnesium panel out without the screen, with the screen still on, because the screen is bonded to this panel. Oh yeah, we'll remove that little function button. So we're gonna have to take the screen off next. Now this is tricky, and yeah, it is tricky. There's no way of sugarcoating it, especially if it's not broken and we're trying to maintain it, which we are. So what I'll do is we'll have a heat mat that we will lay it face down on, and that will warm up the adhesive strips that all go around there, and then we'll very gently lift it off, maneuvering this cable out through that hole as we go. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna cut this section out because I'm gonna go and put it on the heat mat that we've got for about 10 minutes. Nicely warm that up. We'll use a bit of heat to remove these as well. Yeah, so let's go and do that now.
Here's one I did earlier. As you can see, this has got all of the other boards in. It's just literally a screen remover on this one. But our heat mat, it sat on there. We set it about 68 degrees. But like I said, anything that you can do to warm around the edge of the screen, it would be helping to release that adhesive.
What warm do we use? What heat do we use? I think our heat mat is set to 75, but we also, it's quite thick, so not all of that heat gets transferred in. That would probably be fatal if you put that sort of heat in. But we've got a bit of a setup that just reduces that down. So I'd say 50 degrees is more than enough, and just leaving it on there for heat soak purposes. This is a fantastic suction cup that I haven't seen before. Now what I do is gently start in the center of the screen, the weakest area. So the weakest, it is the weakest, but it's also, you've got more ability for it to bend and not break in the centers than you have close to the edges. So we start in the middle, and we're going to use the plectrum. Normally I'd use one of our very thin curved tools, 0.1 mil, and run that in there, but we're going to use one of their tools just to see how it goes. So you give it a gentle, so with my fingers I'm pushing away, and with my other finger I'm pushing up, and just going to work my way in. And we're only going to enter the sort of about 2 millimeters. The width of the tape is 2 mil, and it takes got a bit of discipline and practice. I am making it look easy, I hope. He says, hopefully you're not breaking the screen. You will need to spend way more time doing it, and if you have to put it back on heat, or you have to get the hair dry out again, then do so. Like I said, we do this day in, day out, so you know, it's hopefully you'll find it as easy as I am, but just be careful. Okay, we'll leave that in place for now, and don't overstretch things. The good thing is there's not adhesive all the way around, there's just pieces. So it does make it a little bit easier. You're going to get to there. What you don't want to do is kind of run down there, and it levers that even further up, because you could end up breaking the screen. But already you can see that it's starting to lift away, which is quite good. Just go back and just kind of redo a few bits, just in case they re-stick together. Good thing about these being plastic is they don't actually mark the casing. If we were doing a screen replacement, for instance, and keeping the casing, we don't want to be sending it back to a customer with any marks on it. I must admit, I would still prefer to use this very fine tool, which perhaps we should sell on our website, because they're literally 0.1 of a mil, and they're incredible. I'm going to do full of mine rules, a little pentrum there. Break that off. I'm going to put that back on the heat just to do the last half of the screen, so I'm not forcing it. So we've re-warmed it a bit. Give some purchase down the other half of the screen, really. Let's start in the centre of the back piece. I mean, you can pick up these curved 0.1 mil tools from all sorts of places, even if we don't list them, which maybe we shall. You know, eBay is a good place to start with those, AliExpress, etc., etc. quite well stuck down. And if you want to do a screen replacement itself, you don't actually need to remove a whole lot more than just the main board. You get down to the main board, everything else can stay in. We'll do a screen replacement video if we haven't already before long. Again, we just don't want to go too far in, because if you start going too far in, you'll go beyond the adhesive layer and start damaging the inside or the back of the LCD and the touch membrane as well. And that's something we don't want to be doing. So time and care is the prescription for this. Just literally scrubbing bits of the glue. Sticky glue this is actually. Get to the last piece, you can give it a bit of a wiggle, just trying to break that glue bond, and also at all times watching that, because if that re-sticks itself, then it's going to start breaking the cable. We don't want that. So you can feed that all the way through. Yeah, there we go. That's one less thing to worry about, and give that screen a bit of a twist. Off it goes. There we go. So the LCD screen's off. It's not broken. The adhesive, we'll have to replace some of the adhesive actually, but you can see that all of it, pretty much all of it, stays on the screen, which is really good. Yeah. This is the tiny bit that we need to replace, but I'd rather stick with that stuff. So we'll pop that out of the way. That is the LCD screen. And you're left with the magnesium shell, battery and speakers. So there was a load of tiny little screws for this LCD, the magnesium tray, sorry. I'm going to pop them out, they're really fiddly. Don't even know where that went. There it is. Running out of spaces. Put it there. And see, there is the, well actually that's not necessarily antenna. The antenna's here. That probably is just the daylight sensor. I don't really know. There's a big cable just for a daylight sensor, or like a light sensor. But you've definitely got a photoelectric cell there. All these functions you take for granted. So many screws. It must be pretty time consuming to actually assemble en masse. Have we missed any? They're not screws, you've got screws there. I don't believe there is, no there's not, that's just the pins. Okay, so that should be everything on that side needed. Now onto the back of the frame as well. What we are going to need to do, we're at 1 hour, steamdeckrepairs.com. Steam Deck, say 1 hour, probably cut and shut some of the stuff out that's irrelevant. We'll release some of these speaker wires because these speakers are, what the heck, we can peel them off at the same time. So the main screws for the frame, this magnesium frame, one there, one there, one there, one there. We're going to take those out. Little red marker pens. I think that basically the quality assurance of the assembly factories, they go through and they just literally tag each screw once they know that it's in place and done up. Already that frame's lifting out of the housing. Now, with a bit of the heat, it will lift these speakers out. They're just double-sided foam tape. The cable's that side. We'll go in from this side, and we'll just literally, you get under and just give it a twist, like so. Like so, and they lift it off. And with the heat helps. It always comes away with the membrane there. But see that white layer? That's the adhesive. So we want to keep that nice and neat. And there's that's actually going to stay in this. I'd transfer that over if the new plate didn't have it in, but the new plate has. Same with that, we'll go in this side and then just twist it up, like so, although I can have to do it on there. Go in there, twist it up. Again, not going too far in that you're going to damage the speaker, but just far in enough just to get the adhesive. There we go, once again, lifts off. We'll straighten that out a little bit. But there's a speaker, you don't want to be knocking into that, that's gonna break the speaker. We do the parts, SteamDeckRepairs.com, we do the repairs, yada yada yada. We'll leave that. Normally, well, you've got a choice, but if you're replacing that, you would just unravel it from all in here. Now, the frame should start to lift out, like so. There we go. That's the magnesium frame. Those are the two antennas that stay in place. There's a bit of a tape there, but that's, you know, that sticks to the screen, I think, as you go through. Yeah, you don't need to take the battery off. Battery replacements on these are quite tricky, but not impossible. And that's a weighty old piece of magnesium. There's the frame. This is that cable, as I said. We're going to, it could be antenna. We'll disassemble that in a minute, so put that to one side. Running out of room. And these are literally just stuck on there. There. We don't want to lift it, we don't want to pull it too much because we'll break it, but we'll just get into there with that tool and just gently pry the double-sided adhesive off. They've got little metal plates as well, which gives it a bit of purchase. You see the black piece with the double-sided tape, we'll keep that on there. That one lifts off. There's not much glue, but you don't want to be pinging these circuits off. That's just got a tiny bit of gluey, like glue. When I say glue, it's like double-sided tape either side. Less you want to touch it because you want it to remain sticky. And the same here, just kind of basically you're looking for the spudger to go in underneath that metal plate and just break that glue bond, and it lifts off again. Give it a little bit of a pull. Off we go. Oh, nearly there. Last but not least, these push buttons, which we will replace, but we'll actually carry over this rubber section. That hooks onto there, goes in. Same with this side. It's just a rubber bit that hooks in that side, and you've got the power button. They pull out. We're actually going to replace the plastic button, but we keep the rubber. And this LED light, it's just an LED. It's a piece of plastic that the LED goes and shines through for the power. I transferred that over last time. It's already on it this time, so I don't need to. And that is, as I say, that's the front shell and the Steam Deck in a massive array of parts. Gives us a little time to inspect this kit. It's very nice indeed. The last one that we did was the chameleon purple of a different manufacturer, I believe. So here we've already got these stuck to it, and these as well. Some of the kits we had, we transferred these over. The best way to look at it is just basically copy one part to the other, and if there's things missing, make sure that you transfer them. If they're not in the kit that you receive, then make sure that you transfer them from your old to the new. For instance, one thing that we found, you see these where these are kind of friction welded in place, these buttons here. Luckily, Jsaux actually screwed them in place, which is very nice, a very nice touch as well. And all my guides basically say if there's something in it, it's supposed to be there. So make sure you transfer it over. Don't cut corners. And I'm not talking just screws. I'm talking stickers. This is like a ground plane. This is a heat dissipation panel. They're there to stop things from happening. So make sure you transfer it all over. It's well worth it. Okay, so here we go for the reassembly of the Steam Deck. Neil from SteamDeckRepairs.com. I can see how that would be daunting. In fact, looking at it myself, it is a little bit daunting, but piece by piece, in reverse. So let's swap these buttons over. They've got the little rubber bits in there, so that's quite good. First, we're going to put the power button in and just match it up to what it was. So it's that way with the little lug at the top. So the little hole, those little holes match up with those there. the hole in there has got a little keyway as well. Good tiny for my huge fingers. There we go. So that's in place. Looks like that. That does. Pop that to one side, and that just tucks in behind there and there as well. So there's like a lug that comes up on either side, and it actually slots behind it to give it that kind of spring back effect. And that one over there. There we go. So that's in place there, and it's held in place, and it's on. So it comes to the other side. Slightly more difficult because of the individual buttons, but again, they've got little holes that they locate in to make sure you get them the right way around. Look, that goes down, that points down. We're actually going in through the back where the hole is. There we go. See? Same with that one. Again, the flats face either way. Looks a little bit like that, which it does. There we go, that's better. Wasn't quite, that wasn't coming in through there, it was going out that way. That's a lot better. There we go, so that's in there. Let's put them to one side when we don't need them anymore. Next part, these go in. These have little holes and little locating pins on there, so that makes life a bit easier. Again, I really don't want to touch them as little as possible, so the glue lasts, but it's quite easy. They locate, give it a little bit of a push down. Same with those two, under those, the two, there we go, nice. Two holes there, that goes on one hole. Beautiful. Couldn't ask for more than that. Normally I'd put that mesh in if it wasn't there, but it's already there. There we go. So that's the big part now, is the frame. So we're going to drop that in place. Got to watch for these little antenna plates that go in there. Move the speakers out of the way if you need to, like so. Give it a bit of wiggle jiggle. Make sure that cable's in place still. Make sure you're going underneath these buttons, which they are. With a finger on the back, flip it over, make sure it's all located properly. That's nicely in place. They're all flush, which they are. All flush. Those brackets are in place. Yeah, that looks pretty darn good. I'll put those 4 screws in place just to keep it there. And that's these ones here. Now hopefully the threads in these are pretty good. They feel nice. I doubt they tap them, so it's just, you know, the mold size that you're screwing into. So you just got to be gentle, not over tight, otherwise the screw threads will just disappear on you and you'll just end up spinning. Because it's only plastic at the end of the day. And it doesn't have to be graunched mega tight. You are essentially cutting your own threads into them. New threads, so they might be a bit stiff. Also make sure that they're fully in, because if they're out and they're not in, things will wiggle around, and also anything that's got to go on top of it might end up getting broken by that. So those 4 screws are in place, which is perfect. Then we're going to put these speakers in, and essentially they find their own way because it's all molded, pre-molded and been there forever anyway. So we're just going to sit it against that as much as it will go in place, and just give it a little bit of a firm press. Make sure that it's square, which it is. Have a quick look around the front. Make sure nothing looks folded or unusual, which it doesn't. Same with this one. This one just has to locate. You've got 2 little white dashes. Oh, sorry. 2 little white dashes there that go underneath that. Again, beautiful attention to detail for them, not just for the assemblers, but for the enthusiast as well. Again, sit that pretty much where it wants to be. Give it a gentle push down. That foam adhesive then sticks down. Flip it over. Looks spot on. You've got the grey mesh there as well. We didn't need to carry it over, which is fine. And we're going to flip it over and we're going to put the tiny little screws in. So these tiny little screws don't seem to be magnetised. Let's try and wipe my screwdriver across this magnet. There we go. So yeah, little trick. If you've got a magnet and you wave your screw over, you rub your screwdriver across it in one way, it magnetizes it, allowing you to pick up the screws. we're going to screw all these in. I'm Neil at SteamDeckRepairs.com if you ever need us. Yes, we are UK based, but we ship and repair internationally as well. And as I've always said, you've got warranty of a valve. If you have, then use it. If you don't want to, then we're here. Or you can't, then we're here. There's no better repair than a free one. But I understand that sometimes it's not covered under warranty, or perhaps they don't allow it, or it's going to take too long. Then yeah. I really are campaigning to Valve, and have been for a long time now, for supply parts. Yes, I know iFixit are their main part supplier, but the parts that they seem to release to iFixit for whatever reason are not ample and not the full range either, which is frustrating. And where do we get our parts from? We break brand new Steam Decks down for parts, simple as, so that we can service you guys. Yeah, Valve have been very closed door to us so far. And all we want to do is help out them and their customers aftermarket, after out of warranty. So we've got the frame in place. I think we might as well start looking at putting the screen in. Now, what we would tend to do in the workshop is we would preheat that, put that on the heat again. And we know that, like I said, there's adhesive all the way around here. It comes with adhesive sets. Beautiful kit. It tells you where they go. Left side, I imagine that's that. And it is. So you've got left side strip. Goes down there, down there, down there, down there, dab at the end, and so on, so forth. The only problem is, what I don't want to do is start scraping the adhesive off of this, because then it can take the black paint off around the underside of the screen and leave a mess, and start scratching the paint off of and I know that what is there isn't there, and what is there isn't there, because it came off, literally, it came off it. And because I haven't touched it with my fingers too much, then it is perfectly good to use. Just make sure that if you do it, you peel all the tape off there, you give it a clean down with some alcohol wipes or something, then you lay it and put it down. You don't want to double up on layers, otherwise your screen's going to sit off. It's not going to sit down properly. You'll push it down, it will crack. Horrible. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to feed the cable in, put the screen roughly in place there, and we're going to come the other side and gently encourage the cable to come out of that hole. They are robust, but they're also rather fragile, so it's got to be fiddly gentle. Maybe even, there you go, you just like maneuver the screen around. Like so. In a minute I've got a video to do on a dock replacement, and that is just the USB dock, USB-C dock. Right, sits in place, cable is out. Give it a gentle run round all the way around there, and again, we will heat that up and give it a gentle clamp down. But it's not going anywhere. I can push on the back, and it's not coming out, and I'm happy. And it's flush all the way around. It's absolutely perfect. Testament to the quality of this assembly as well. But I know that's in place. We'll sit that down and put that into place as well. Start with that, follow it round, then just gently push that to where it will stick down there. Perfect. Screen on. Next thing is going to be assembling these sides. Let's tackle it. We might as well. These pads. These pads are tricky. Okay. First of all, there is it's just 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There may be catches there. I think it's just 4 catches. We get, see where that overlaps. There's a piece in there, it opens out like that. So we're not going to go straight for that, because we don't want to tear that cable. We'll go this end and open it like a book. Easier said than done. Honestly, on this one, these are tricky. Let's use this. Tool. Okay, we got it. So pushing down on that just allowed us to separate that. See that? There are catches in there. I know there are. Yeah, you've got a little catch there, catch there, catch there, catch there. So there's 8, which is hard. So you get a little pin bit in there. Push that through. We've got that corner undone. Next thing we're going to do is work our way around. So we're going to push that one off. See that? There we go, off it comes. It really, that tool is brilliant. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 catches all the way around, and you open it up to be a delightful assembly with the vibration motor, the touch panel there, and the membrane there that then touches the back of that board as spoken about. What we have to do now is put that on a heat pad and lift this section out without damaging it. And there isn't much room around the edge to put it, and we don't want to be damaging any cables. So we'll lift this clasp just for old time's sake. We'll pull that out and we'll heat that up on the heat mat on that face down, just to warm, because there's that whole patch is an adhesive layer. I've got screen adhesive stuck to my elbow. Now in my previous shell changes, I've kept the adhesive if it's been absolutely 100%, which it has been. If not, you can use these. So I put that on the heat mat. Again, about 50 degrees, a hairdryer. But the thing is, you can waz it with a hairdryer, and it's all about heat soak. If you waz it with a hairdryer, that will get nice and hot, but it will take ages for heat to soak through that into the adhesive and to loosen that. So you might go, it's all about patience. You leave it on a radiator, you can have it less heat, but more time, because it's about heat soak. It's about the time it takes for the heat to heat this surface, go through the plastic, go through the other side, and then into the adhesive to warm the adhesive to make it less sticky. So it's about time rather than massive heat, or a combination of the two. As you'll notice on there, it's the same all the way around, apart from that little bit there, that lug there. That tells you which way round they are, because there are differences. And on this new part, you'll find that there is the same sort of thing that matches that lug there. On the other purple kit I had, that was too thick by a fraction of a millimetre. Because I knew which way round they are, I literally just scalpeled that off and put it in. But yeah, on a stick, that orientation, that tells you where that goes. Let's do the other one while we're at it, but I want to keep them separate. So that says VAR. Doesn't say anything on it. So push that down whilst pulling up, push down. I'm kind of trapping my skin in there just to stop it from coming back on itself. Needs must, put your body on the line. There you go, give it a wiggle, out it comes. It's been on the heat mat, warmed up gently. Just got to try and find a way in without knocking anything off. So we're going to go away from any chips. You almost want to go in that way, and then under, to make sure that you've got underneath the circuit board, but it's still very, very difficult. Yeah, maybe it'll have to be one of these slightly more robust metal tools. Even that's not fine enough, really. This is easily the hardest part of it, I think. Oof, nearly. There we go. Look at that. Now, hopefully, I haven't done any damage to that surface layer there. These are thick, but you don't know, and I won't know until I put it in. We do have spares, so that's no problem. SteamDeckRepairs.com, that's fine, but it's not ideal. So I mean, that's incredibly sticky. I'm not going to use those. I've flattened it out so there's no high points. I'm going to put it straight in. We line up that section, the little lug there. It goes straight in. I think we've got mindful, actually, you're going to see that as well. Okay, so we've got that far. and we'll reuse this. So we flick the clasp up, we lay the cable like so in. You see that little white line on the cable, you'll find this on many. That line lines up with the back of this clasp, so then you know it's all the way in and it's in square. When we literally just push the clasp down really gently and it grasps the cable. Then we flip it over and reclip it in, which is darn sight easier than before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we go. I think over time that'll warm up and probably re-adhere itself, but yeah, interesting. That's one done. Let's go and get the other one. So we settled on brutalism. Try and get these off. A bit more heat and knowing exactly where to go into does help a little bit. Off it comes. Yeah, so that's a little bit better, but you're always going to have a bit of an entry mark there, aren't you? Right, rinse and repeat. There's a lot of that, left and right. So we sit that connector in, we kind of flatten it out with a thumbnail. Oh no, ahead of myself. We're going to stick that down first. So spin it round. That little section there matches up to that little nugget in there. Like I said, on the main purple, the old purple, the other purple kit I used, that was too big, so I just had to cut it out. Give it a press. All the way around. Like so. Lift up that little clasp again. The little clasp comes off easier when there's no cable in it. Push the cable in to the white line, almost not quite disappears into the connector. Push it down, and then we lift it over and clip it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. However many. Sorted. Another one done. Those two are now done, left and right. And put those out of the way. That's probably the hardest part done. Let's start looking at building this up. So as you look at it, left and right is almost opposite. This is left, this is right, because when you spin it over, left and right. And on these, they've got the LNR on there. So we're going to go with the left, sorry, which is our right now. Our right now. Right. That goes underneath that magnesium lug, and there's little sort of vertical spigots that it lines up on, those little holes there alongside the screw holes that it sits on. Make sure the springs aren't too bent out of shape. Obviously we have to give it a bit of manhandle, so you want to make sure that they're not horrendous. If they are, then get them and just give them a bit of a bend back, I guess, yeah. Make sure that they're on the spigots correctly. And we're going to screw them in place with these 4 here. Yeah, so going into these screw holes, because they've not got a thread or and they've not had a screw in their life, there we go, that's on. They're a little bit tricky to put in, and you've got to give them a little bit more pressure, but again, not rounding the screws off and not damaging the thread. So it's a tricky balance, and it's a feeling thing. I think you get the feel of it. And also, it's easy to go, oh, that feels like it's tightened up, but it's not. As well with that screw, it still had a millimetre or so that it would float in it. So yeah, it's a feel thing. If you round the screw off or the screw just spins in the thread, it's not the end of the world. There's so many screws in this thing. If in doubt, just dab a little bit of glue and then do it up, and it will just it'll hold it in place. It's not as if it's a wheel nut and the wheel's going to come off. There are plenty of thread fixes out there you can use, and little life hacks if you do find yourself
sort of thing. 4 little screws. Make sure that those little spigots are poking through each side.
Yeah, see that started to round off because I'm having to put a bit more bejesus on it, for want of a better phrase. So I'll use a slightly thicker cross it. No, that's not going to do it. To get it in place. Perfect. I don't want to use that because I want to use the tools they've given us, so it gives you a display of, you know, that it can be done with what they give you. But sometimes needs must. You get a few, you know, little things like that throw you away.
Big dive into the iFixit kit or whatever kit you've got. In all this, make sure that our mat is nicely clean so it doesn't mark up the shell on the other side. See, that's not taking onto that, that's just peeling it off. Slightly misaligned. There we go, if not, undo it, then redo it. Okay, so these new thread holes are proving to be a little bit tricky.
Got 2 touch pads in. There they are. Not the most beautiful. They're nicely in place. You can see the adhesive where it's stuck and where it hasn't stuck. But it is what it is. So, the D-pad. There's a certain way, there's a cutout on this side, and you see that's got a flange all the way around. Matches up to the fact that that's got the same sort of gap there. The buttons themselves, they got quite handy. They're almost timed. They've got thin lugs on each button, and then thick lugs, and they're in different places. So you can't get wrong. Although, let's see if that's true without actually seeing where they're going to go. I can't do it. I'm going to have to check. So it's A button. The Y. And a B. And if I check those out without them falling out, A, B, X, Y. But yeah, you can't actually get them in the wrong way as far as I can see because of the way that the lugs are designed, which is very clever. And that goes for the main Steam Deck that's designed that way. We've copied them. Same with these 2 main buttons. You've got the 3-dotted button and the plain button. Yeah, they're timed in a way where you can't misplace them. Let me prove myself wrong or right on that one. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so we've dropped them into place. I know that they have the rubber things to go on the outside, so that's fine. The D button's already, yeah, that's already fallen out. So let's put that back in place. Again, that won't go the wrong way. That has to go the right way because of that piece that's missing on the side there. Same with these ones. Tiny little logos on. That has a really big flat, which has to go on that one. Oh no, it's not true. It'll go either way. Good God. I'm actually going to have to rely on Google for this one. I'll go back on my Steam Deck. Make sure I've got it the right way around. So, D-pad. Yes, correct. That, and with that one there, and the 3 lines on this one. Yeah. And ABXY, and the 3-dotted button on this one. Yeah, correct. And then the Steam button on this one, although it doesn't say Steam. There's nothing on it at all. Right, there we go, we got it correct. If not, I'll just go on online or go and check my Steam Deck. So they're in place. Next thing is the sort of sensor buttons. There's the sensor matrix on there. On the right hand side, which is obviously the left that we look at it, is going to drop straight onto there. There's a locating spigot there and a locating spigot at the top there. 4 screws. That's that plate in there. Just test that it still works. Yeah, nice action on that button. Yeah, of course those buttons just pinged out. I'll double check them before I screw them down. Same thing, sensor plate on the left or right. Locates on a spigot there and a spigot in that top corner. Four screws, one's pinged out. So press that. Got decent action on it, which is, yeah, feels great. The D-pad and the buttons. I prefer to put we make sure we've got those in place. I prefer to put that straight on top. Okay, so we've got the bumper button, but we're actually going to replace it. So that was nearly a big error. So we pinged it out. And we lose the spring. There are replacement springs, but that's okay. So we've got the spring. Right, we ping that out, find the button that's going to be replacing. The L1 button. And this is how we sit it into place. So I'll put the spring on that little, that cross hair, so to speak, that X. The spring goes on there. That has a little return on it. I'm going to hook that return around. I call that a spring bucket. I'm going to hook that return around, or the spring in the bucket, and then hook that return around the side of the spring bucket. And then what you have there is you've got that prong. There's like 2 prongs that sits inside its own little receiver. There we go. And then finally that return just clips onto there. There we go, just sits on it. And we have an operating button. So we put the rubber membrane in place right there. We've showed you that before, but we'll make sure the buttons are all in place. You don't want to get there and you spin it over and the buttons aren't there. There's a little spigot that follows through and goes around that hole as well. Then the bumper button, we're going to line up onto this. That has to actually, this bit has to go underneath there. There we go. Yeah, okay, so we get that under there located, then that touches in, then the rest actually falls into place. There we go. That spigot, button's nice and operative. Then we can put some screws in. So I'll start by putting that screw in here. And then one in there. Okay, so bumper button's in. Let's try again. We make sure that we put the rubber in there. So the rubber goes over that button and clips in quite nicely. Or it just doesn't clip in, but it finds its way to where it wants to sit. Sorry for the wobble. The daughter board goes in and locates on some lugs over the top, at the top there, and then there. Sits in place. We put the large screw in this large screw hole, making sure it doesn't nip this cable. It looks close, but it's not going to catch it. We can pretty much put these 2 bottom ones in, with the little triangles that point to it. Don't know what they mean. maybe they mean that it can go in, these are the ones that go in, and not those ones which have something go on top of them. That works for me actually, because then you put that in place. Yeah, see that one had an arrow, the white triangle on. And then that one. And I believe the joypad, that goes there. Yeah, so I guess they point to, these little triangles point to where you do put screws in, on at least on the boards themselves. So we're going to put the screw in there and there. Oh yeah, there we go. There's little triangles as well. Every day's a school day, so these triangles tell you where they go in. So yeah, okay, look out for the triangles. Look out for the triangles, and they tell you where the screws go, as opposed to underneath it and something goes on top. So if it hasn't got a triangle, don't put a screw there. You know what? I don't remember seeing that on any website. Now you do. Triangle there, triangle underneath there, triangle there, triangle there, triangle there, triangle there, triangle there. So there you go. I'll follow that on the other side. See how that works out for me. As I've done a fair few of these, but there you go. Never actually sat and analysed it like that. Actually, before we put the thumbstick in place, because that's just going to make it sit up too far, we'll sort out all the cables first. So as we do, we lift the clasp with like that, really gentle. They break quite easily. We're just going to push it in place and line that arrow up with pretty much the top of the edge of the connection as it goes in. So I'll try and do a close-up of these, putting them in without shaking the world too much for you. They thread in. Use that to give it a wiggle. This was a tricky one coming out. You can see it's half in, but it's not all the way in because that line is like that. So that's not good enough. That spigot stopping my fingers from putting it in parallel. Give me some tweezers. They're better than mine. Lift the clasp up. Put it in. Ooh, so close. It just wants to go in on the piss. And this just wants to go in. Oh, there we go. That one's really stiff for some reason. It was stiff coming out as well. And then we're just going to use the thumbnail just to push the clasp over. Remember, you're not pushing it that way, you're pushing it down. Pushing it down. You push it that way, you're going to break it straight out the connector. Same with this one. Little tweezers. So this one's slightly different. It kind of goes in at an angle, and these two side lugs, these ears, sit behind that bit there and that bit there. So it goes in diagonally down, then you flatten it out, and you see there, it sits behind those ears. Hold it down while you generally just click that clasp over. Very nice. Same thing again, we get hold of that little non-return, that little return there. Come in at a slight angle. I did exaggerate the angle there. Give it a wiggle. Again, that white line will show us where it comes to. This time it doesn't quite come up to the sides. I don't really know why. But we know that the white line is right at the edge. Push that down, and you see the line corresponds with the edge of that connector, which is good. These ones can be quite difficult. They do push straight down. You've got to line them up. If I'm trying to move my hand out of the way, line them up, push straight in. Give it a nudge. But again, they only go in one way. Okay, so we've got the daughter boards in. We've got that. We can now put the L2 button with the spring in. So there's a magnet because let all the screws stick to it. I wonder where they all go. In fact, they were the thumbstick I thought I'd lost. So we're going to transfer these over to the purple button. Now there's just one screw and there's a magnet there, look. We're going to undo that screw. Sticks to the magnet. It comes out, we get a shot of the L2. We pick up the new L2. And it can only go in one way. Again, it locates on these nice little lugs, beautiful. Magnet holds the screw in place, so it's going to be a bit fiddly. Of course it is. Put it on the end of the screwdriver, in the hole, nip it up. There we go, beautiful, in place. Putting these on can be a little bit tricky. Put the spring on there. You're going to put that spring down there so you hold it in place, and then you're just going to push. You're going to locate one lug, doesn't matter which one, make sure that it's in place. You're going to push it round the other lug and then down a bit, and it clips into place. There we go. I made it look a lot easier than it is, and all my buttons fall out. But there we go. Let's work on this side now. So we've got those in place. Let's put that button. I already did, but it came out like so. It'll only go in one way comfortably. I'm going to put this little rubber spacer over, and it goes on all the way around the outside of the kind of the button frame. Then we're going to put the rubber over those, make sure the buttons are in place. You can spin it over and make sure that they're in the right holes as well, but like I said, I don't think there's a way you can get them wrong, but then they just won't sit in place. Put the rubber in. We're going to change this bumper out, so we just literally pull the tang out that end, like so. Comes away. We recycle the spring, pop the spring in onto that little spigot that pops out, and again lead with this end in first. So I start with that on the spring bucket, so I clip it in round the edge of the spring, or the spring in first, clip that round around the edge side of its bucket. The two little fingers there goes in that hole, and then last but not least, there you go. You just pull that, give it a little bit of pressure up that way and round and in, and it catches hold of that. Let's follow the old arrow rule, shall we, this time? Might make life a bit easier. So this goes underneath this spigot. I call everything a spigot. Everything that sticks out is a spigot. Might not even be a word in other languages or America or whatever. So push that under and it locates on that spigot. Then you push the top in, make sure the bumper's nice and in position. That one there, locates it all on those spigots. And we're going to put some screws in. Now we're going to follow the arrows. Or are we? There's no arrow for that one. So we're going to put that one in at the top. It's all purple, it's all see-through. Still works nicely. There's an arrow there pointing to the middle one, so let's put the middle one in. Let's do as it's telling us, shall we? Let's do as it's telling us, people. It's like a man thing, you don't read the instructions until afterwards. Okay, that's in place. No other arrows. Let's prove this theory. That one's got an arrow, that one's got an arrow, that one has, so they're in. Next thing is the daughter board. We've got the rubber on there this time. Yeah, and that feels like it's all in a good place. That button, there's the micro switch that we replace when you get a duff switch. Instead of replacing this whole board, we literally unsolder that tiny little micro switch, and we've got them in stock, and we solder them back on. So the daughter board goes in there, making sure that switch is nicely in position, making sure these cables are out. That's out, that one there, and that one there, not folded underneath. It's in place on that spigot, and that one there, and that one at the top. And let's follow the arrows. The big screw first, which goes into that hole there.
Next arrow, there.
And there are no more. So let's put these ribbon cables in. We use our tweezers. So we flick the clasps up. And then, it's hard to do it, I'm trying to do it on camera, just turn it around. I wish Apple would use these little tangs, they make it useful. That one wiggles in. Oh, that one went in nicer than the other side, didn't it? So give it a wiggle. White line in line with the back of that connector, so you know it got in place. Lift that up. This one goes in at a slight angle. Locates. Hold it down. Locates on these two little lugs either side, and then we fold that down. Lugs up. This one. Again, slight angle, bit of a wiggle, it's come out again. If you've got to force it, it means it's wrong, so you come out and try again. You've got to make sure they're parallel, make sure they go in nicely. Bit of a wiggle. Pretty comfortable with that being in. White line lines up there. Then this one, again, you line it up and you push it straight down gently, and it gives you a nice positive little click. If you've got to force it or there's no click and you've got to keep it, just don't, because you'll break the connector or the board. Again, AppleiPodParts.com if you do, but it's ideal if you don't. Okay, so those cables are in place. We're going to go with the bumper, the trigger button bracket. Locates on those spigots at the top. We can follow those arrows. One there. An arrow. Yep, there's an arrow there. And an arrow in that one. The other reason why I like using the original screws is because you then know if you've got any left over. Okay, all the buttons in place and they feel quite nice. Nice. Yeah, they're feeling good. Top button. Very good. They all feel really nice. Quite pleased with that. So really simple. You just lift it off the plate a little bit. Push it in, down into place. They locate again on those little spigots. Got that cable, which we'll do in a minute. We're going to put the screws in place. Tweezers for this, lift that clasp up. Hold that, feed it in. I'll use my finger on that one. I'd have it all over the place if I was, I'd say all over the place, I'd have it up in my face when I'm not on camera. Push that one down. Give the sticker. Yeah, all that's nice. We've not done anything to that, so it should be any reason why it's not. Got the other side in. Again, they will locate on those spigots.
Comment below what it means. I like it. I like the word French. You use the screw in, it's actually stuck to magnets for that.
That goes in place, that clasp down. We'll replace this button with a purple one. Or spigot, line it up on that spring, and then put one on, and then just gently push back. Let's try doing the other way, because it's slightly longer on this side, so it might give you a little bit more flexibility. So you put the shorter one on, and then the longer one on. There you go. So you put the shorter outside lug on first, then you bend over onto that one. Feels good. All buttons feel good. Spin it over. Still get everything in place. Alrighty, we're making progress. So we are ready for the main board, and well, we're almost ready for the main board, because we need to put the audio cable in, and because they route under the board and clip into underneath the board as well. So let's put the audio board in first. Same sort of thing. You run that, you lift that clasp up, you give that a wiggle into place until it's nice and square, you clip that down, and we're going to put the board, you move that cable out of the way, and you put the board in at an angle so that the headphone jack goes into the hole. Lift it up a little bit. You've got these two little lugs that sit on top of these micro switches. Again, we replace those micro switches if you have an issue with your volume or your power. We don't replace the whole board, saving you money, and it's not wasteful. We know that that's still in place, and there's that bit of tape there. So we're just going to push it in a little bit and then stick the tape down, and that fold is where it's naturally finding its way, so that's good. We put a couple of screws in this daughter board, in this audio board. Onto this connection is just a vertical clasp essentially, so we're going to lift it up a little bit. It doesn't come very far, but it does wiggle, so you know it's off. You pull it too far and it'll come out, but it's okay, you can just push it back in. You use that, you're going to put the cable into that slot like so. It won't go any further. Then you just get whatever, your thumbnail or something, you just push that clasp down, look, like so. With your thumbnail, you just make sure it's all, or your fingernail, in proper place, which it is. Buttons, nice button feel. Headphone jacks poking through nicely. Then we run the audio cable. Now, which went first? Let's have a look. We've got this big daughter board cable that goes in, and that's going to go all the way across and underneath the main board. So first we'll start off by putting it into this clasp. So we'll flip that clasp up. Put it in place. Again, it's like the others, it goes in at a slight angle in the middle. Clip that down, check that that line's where it is. You follow the crease, so you stick it down from bit to, there you go, follow the crease up. You follow that line on the battery. You want it inside that line. So there's a bit of play both sides. That crease, in fact, to be honest, that crease could probably move over a little bit. Crease goes down, follows the contours, goes underneath. You can see where it's stuck actually. Let's move it up a tiny bit. Probably come unstuck when I put the board down anyway. Okay, now we've got the main board. This is the juggling act. Bring the clasps up. LCD goes over the top anyway. And you see that one has to go in there. That one has to go in there. This is the tricky part. How do I tackle that? I buy myself some room. These cables are quite flexible. So I post that into that slot there, give it a wiggle because it's not quite there. Push the clasp over with your finger. Again, you push it over and down, remember? This goes in. Making sure not to move that too much. It will move if you unstick it, like so. If you can see that there. You're imagining it which way it goes. I have to then, actually, I nearly got it wrong. You push it in so the line's almost up to the back of the connector. Push that clasp down. We know that's right. Flip it over. Take your time on that one. They're super difficult. Make sure the LCD is in its right place. That's there. This cable, that big lightweight cable, is just going to find its own home really underneath the board. Making sure it's not crimped or anything. Battery connector out the way. Those out the way. LCD cable out the way, and push the board into its home. There we go. There's a bit springy now because that cable's underneath it, but as long as that's close, which it is, they're out of the way, that's out of the way, that's out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is put the rest of the daughter board cables in. Rinse and repeat. Same sort of thing. In, fold down, lift it up. In, fold down. Is that in? Let's give it an extra wiggle. Mind you, looking at where that white line is on the other connectors, it looks about right. Yeah, that's in place. Make sure that that's under there. In. I'm not putting this down just yet, so that I have got a bit of room to tuck cables and move if I need to. LCD connection. This is really, it's a stiff one, and it can be tricky. Let's use the tweezers. That block is stopping me. There we go. Nice, and then just use your thumb on that big long bar connector. I wouldn't use a tool in the middle because you can snap it in half. I'd use your flesh of your finger to push it over in a big wide space to spread the load. Put some of these screws in place. So I know that this screw along the bottom here with a little sort of cut out on the board can go in place. You can see when you put that back over where the screws go. So that one and that one and that one and that one are all spoken through on that one. So we can go in with those two at the top in the middle. Yeah. They're comfortably in place. Excuse me, that's in place, that's in place. Okay, next thing is these are really tricky. These antenna cables can be really tricky. If you imagine they've got a circular with they're circular outside, like a coax cable, circular outside with a pin in the middle, or that's a pin there, circular negative on the outside, and that's a receiver on the inside. It's really easy to get them misaligned push and then split the whole lot. You can, Spark Angels, SteamDeckRepairs.com as well. If you need it, if you damage them, we can replace them or repair them. But what you're looking to do, because we don't want that, is you're looking for feel. Now what happens is, I know L&M, where they're going to be, or 1&M, or whatever they are, where they're going to be. They also cable wrapped the same way as well, makes it easier to find. But you're looking to just feel. It's all about feel. You put it over, and it will move around until it finds roughly where it is, like that. Then all you have to do is clip into place. Give it a wiggle. They will rotate because they're circular, but they won't come out. If in doubt, you come all the way off and go back on again. Same with this one. At a funny angle, it hits against that thing, so you want to kind of bring it round like that. But again, you kind of, if I can try and get you to see it, look, there you go. If you can wave it round, and then all of a sudden, there we go, it finds its home. Nope, come all the way off. Try again. There you go, immediately finds where it should be. Give it wiggle, push. That's on. It didn't give me a click, I know it's on. But if in doubt, you come all the way off and you go back on it. But yeah, give it a wiggle, give it a push. We know it's in place. But yeah, they're really tricky. We can put that down now. We're done there. This next one is just a block, and you just push it in gently. It knows where it wants to be. In it goes. Give those a little bit of a gentle push around. Make sure they're in there. Make sure they're over screw holes, which means they'll get trapped when anything goes on top of them. And this cable needs to loop over that metal frame there. Look, this little, like a little holder that goes in. There we go. Into place. The antennas are there. Give them a bit of a push down so they stick to the inside of the frame. Those two like solid, like circuit board material. Give them a little bit of a push. They've got a little adhesive on them. Right, we're talking about, we can now put the, well, normally you put that straight back in, but we've got a new one. So we're actually doing a disc change at the same time. You've got to make sure that you get the right type of disc, because they do vary. Sometimes they look the same, but they're not. They're single-sided. What are they? Yeah, they're single-sided 2230 SSDs, NVMe.M.2. Yeah, if you Google Steam Deck, compatible Steam Deck SSDs, then you'll find them. This is a 1 terabyte. This is probably a 512 coming out, I'm not sure. But what we're going to do is we're going to unwrap this heat shield. You can slide them off like that. So that's a 512 gigabyte. So we can do upgrades as well. We don't have to do all of this. If you just want an upgraded SSD, then let us know, and we can do that for you. SteamDeckRepairs.com. We can slide it on, but sometimes these are a little bit bigger. So usefully enough, that slides on. So you don't cover those tangs. They only go in one way. You can see there's a little bit that sticks out. It goes in at a 45-degree angle, not horizontal. So 45 degrees, you can see there, 38, 30 degrees, 25, I don't know. And once it's all the way in, you just push it down. It goes around that hole nicely, so you know it's in place. And then there's a big screw that locates it in place there. Guys, we're nearly ready to fire this up. Do you know that? I'm getting excited. Nice and firm. Next thing we can do is put the fan and the heatsink in place. Again, you can renew this if yours is looking old and crusty, but this is still looks quite fresh and good. It slots in really beautifully. It slots in on those holes, 4 holes there, and then that one screw you're going to put in place, silver screw, it won't come out. So that heatsink. There's 2 of the black smaller screws that are going to go in the bottom of this fan, but not the top. That's where the rear shell locates. So one there, and one there. I do know that when we put the silver heat shield over this, that goes through the heat shield, so we're going to put that one in. You need to watch what I'm doing. So you've got a larger headed screw on the bottom one. Nice. Battery connector can pretty much go on now. So you can flip that down. You've got two long locators there and there. Thing is, you have, because it's such a tight space, you've got to make the battery connector parallel before it goes in. Don't try and force it down at an angle. So you do that, and you kind of put your finger on to push that down. Then you just put it in place. If you need a bit of assistance, then you just gently push that bit in there and that bit in there. You just keep working it away, or even with your fingernail like that. Wiggle it until it goes all the way in, and that lines up with there perfectly. Let's not forget the fan connector. Same thing as the one at the bottom. Just kind of finds its way, and you just use your thumbnail to make sure that it goes in square and goes in all the way. Not quite. Of course, it's going to be a bit awkward. Or is it in? It's not quite. There we go. Didn't look like it was in, but it is. I'm doubting myself. We'll make sure the fan power's up anyway. Then we'll make sure it's all in place, it's all down. We're going to put this over the top. These 4 screws are the screws that go through the back plate, so we don't do those. We'll do that one, and that one. And there should be a big screw set there somewhere. There it is. That goes there. We're going to just put that back over the top. And to be fair, before I put the back on, I would power it up. Let's see, guys. Oh, nice noise. Now it's got no Steam OS on it at the moment because it's a fresh SSD. So I'm not expecting a great deal, but the fact that it made a noise is good. What we do is we will put a dongle in there with the right bootloader on and power it up via that one. So we know it powers on. Not sure about that fan connector. I'm going to try again and put it back in. But again, I don't think you'd see the fan come on until such time as it's been told to by the Steam OS. So I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that. Now the rear shell, these got black buttons in. I'm not sure why. We're going to take them out and put in the clear purple ones, and not anywhere near lining up. That is a problem.
Turns out that these are aftermarket and the black ones are actually standard with the shell. Now the aftermarket buttons aren't for this shell. They were bought by the owner just because he wanted clear purple, and they don't fit.
Okay, well, we can deal with that. In the meantime, let's put these back in. Yeah, they're a different colour of purple, so I think they might be a different make. But I don't know why this Jsaux Shell doesn't come with purple buttons and comes with black ones. A bit strange. So I'm Neil at SteamDeckRepairs.com. This has been a monumental video. It doesn't take me quite as long to do it normally, but obviously on video it does. But it is a long job and it's quite a daunting task as well. So if you don't fancy it, then let us know. And like I said, we're UK based, but we ship and repair worldwide. We are going to start rolling out more parts on our site. So spare parts. Hopefully Valve will actually get in touch and allow us to supply their parts, because that's all we want to do. In the meantime, we break brand new Steam Decks down for parts, because that is the only way. And we pioneered that when we, with our main business, which is Apple, before they started, well, they don't sell parts, but before we could get hold of parts, we would do the same thing, which is very wasteful, expensive. It keeps the parts prices high for the consumer, which is not what we want. So you know where to find us if you want this doing to yours. Okay, so I know that we're all working. To fully test it, we need to put the OS on, which we will do. We'll give that a bit of a clean as well, but just to show you the shell, which unfortunately obviously is going to have these buttons in, never mind, is replace it on. I do like that mod, that cooling mod, very nice. We put it on, we just give it some clip, clip it in place, all the way around. Nice firm gentle clicks. There we go. And then we put the final set of screws in, which are long ones on the outside, short ones on the inside. That. So long ones on the outside, short ones in the middle, and I do believe there is not one screw. Now, bear in mind, I've not used any of the screws that it's been provided. You can look at my mat, and I do believe that there is not one screw left over. What can I say? Flipping genius. I'm Neil at SteamDeckRepairs.com. This has been a long afternoon, but pretty fruitful. If you want any spares or repairs, then just get in touch. I'm more than happy to help. UK based, but we ship worldwide, and we repair and ship worldwide as well. And if you're Valve, please, 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 or you know anyone at Valve, please, 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 allow us to supply your parts. That's all we want. Beautiful. Just in time for my AirPods to go flat. I'm Neil. Thanks for watching. SteamDeckRepairs.com.